picture this for a second. You walk into your living room, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And sitting right there, like right on your coffee table, is a brand new state-of-the-art supercomputer.
Oh, wow.
I mean, we are talking about a machine with just unimaginable processing power. The kind of tech that could, I don't know, calculate the trajectory of a rocket to Mars in a fraction of a second, or like perfectly map the human genome.
Right. Massive computational power.
Exactly. Or it could instantaneously solve the most complex logistical supply chains on the planet. And it is just sitting right there, humming quietly in your house.
Just waiting to be used.
But because no one ever handed you the instruction manual, and, because the interface looks a little intimidating, you've basically spent your entire life using this miraculous machine as a very expensive paperweight.
That is such a tragic waste of potential.
It really is. You just set your coffee mug on it every morning and go about your day.
But, that is exactly the reality most people are living with right now regarding their own minds.
It's wild to think about. So today, for everyone listening, we're finally handing you that instruction manual.
Yes, we are.
We're doing a deep dive into this classic, really foundational text, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, by Dr. Joseph Murphy, which was revised by Ian McMahon.
An absolute classic in the field.
And our mission for you, sitting there listening today, is simple, but it is incredibly profound. We're going to show you how to take that supercomputer, your subconscious mind, and actually turn it on.
Right, actually booting it up.
Yeah, we're going to explore how to reprogram it to, heal your body, solve these insanely complex problems, and attract tangible, overflowing abundance into your life.
And I think the best part is that we are going to do all of this without getting bogged down in, mystical jargon.
Oh, absolutely. That's key.
Because the mechanics of the mind are not magic. I mean, they are practical, they're observable, and deeply scientific.
So to give you a roadmap for this deep dive, we're going to start by decoding the basic architecture of the mind.
Right, getting the lay of the land.
Once we understand that layout, we have to look at the double-edged sword of suggestion, which is, it's how we accidentally program ourselves for failure and heartbreak.
That part is so crucial.
From there, we'll explore the universal mechanics of physical healing. We will debunk this very pervasive and, frankly, dangerous myth of willpower.
Oh, I can't wait to get into that.
And finally, we will hand you specific, highly actionable techniques that you can use to program this supercomputer. And get this, some of which you will actually deploy while you are sound asleep.
It really is incredible.
So, okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the architecture, right? The basic layout of the equipment we are dealing with here.
Yeah, the foundational hardware.
The book makes a very clear distinction right out of the gate, which is that you have one mind, but it operates with two entirely different, almost contradictory functions.
Right. You have a conscious mind and you have the subconscious mind.
Exactly. And understanding the division of labor between these two is, it's the absolute foundation of everything we are going to explore today.
It really is. So your conscious mind is the objective, rational, voluntary part of you.
Yep.
It's the part of you that is listening to my words right now, analyzing them, parsing the grammar, and deciding if they actually make logical sense.
So it's gathering information through the 5 physical senses.
Exactly. It reasons. It chooses.
It's the part of me that chose to wear this specific shirt today. Or the part that debates what to have for lunch based on, what's left in the fridge.
Right, exactly. That surface level navigation. But beneath that, you have the subconscious mind.
And this is where it gets interesting.
Very. Yeah. This is the subjective, irrational, and involuntary part of you. And I want to clarify, when we use the word irrational in this context, we don't mean crazy or unhinged.
Right. It doesn't mean you're losing your mind.
No, we mean non-reasoning. It does not argue with you. It does not analyze. It simply accepts whatever it is given.
Wow.
Furthermore, it runs all the vital processes of your body without you ever having to exert a single ounce of conscious thought.
Thank goodness for that.
Right. You don't consciously tell your heart to beat 80 times a minute, or your lungs to pump air, or your digestive tract to extract specific vitamins from your breakfast.
That would be exhausting.
Your subconscious handles all of that flawlessly, 24 hours a day, even when you are completely unconscious.
The text uses a really beautiful tactile analogy here that I think makes it so clear for you listening.
Mm-hmm.
Think of your mind as a sprawling piece of land, like a garden.
I love this analogy.
You, meaning your conscious, reasoning mind, you are the gardener. And all day long, you are walking through this garden, planting seeds.
And in this case, the seeds are your habitual thoughts.
Right, every single thought. And your subconscious mind is the soil itself. It's this incredibly rich, fertile, dark earth.
And the vital characteristic of soil, any gardener will tell you, is that it does not care what you plant.
It really doesn't.
It has no preference whatsoever. It makes no moral judgments. If you plant the seeds of a beautiful, nourishing tomato plant, the soil will take that seed, give it all of its miraculous, life-giving energy, and grow a tomato.
And here's the catch. If you plant the seeds of a poisonous weed, like a toxic nightshade,
The soil will use that exact same miraculous energy to grow a massive, deadly weed. The soil just does what it's told.
right? If you sow thorns, you are not going to magically harvest grapes just because you're fundamentally a good person.
Exactly.
Every single thought you have is a seed, it is a cause, and every condition in your life is the effect of that harvest.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, another way to visualize this dynamic is to imagine a massive, steam-powered ocean liner crossing the Atlantic.
This is a great one.
Your conscious mind is the captain, standing high up there on the bridge. The captain has the compass, the sextant, the navigational charts.
He's got the whole view.
Right. The captain looks out at the horizon, assesses the weather, and makes choices. He pulls the telegraph and signals down into the depths of the ship, like full speed ahead or turn 10 degrees port.
And the engine room, buried deep down in the steel hull. That is the subconscious.
Exactly. Down in the belly of the ship, you have the crew in the engine room. And remember, they cannot see the ocean.
They are completely in the dark.
They have absolutely no windows to the outside world. They don't know if the ship is headed for a beautiful, sunlit, tropical island or if it is steaming straight into a jagged coral reef.
They just do their jobs.
All they do is look at the dials, shovel the coal, turn the massive steam valves, and unconditionally follow the orders that come down from the bridge. The crew obeys absolutely.
No questions asked.
Right. If the captain gives faulty orders because he, misread the compass, the crew will flawlessly execute those orders and drive the ship right onto the rocks, completely destroying themselves in the process.
Okay, wait. I have to push back on this a little bit.
Sure, go ahead.
Because if the subconscious is this unimaginably powerful supercomputer, this miraculous engine room that can run the human body, heal diseases, and solve massive problems,
Yeah.
why doesn't it have a warning system?
The classic dilemma.
Right. Like if I give it a terrible command, a thought rooted in deep fear or anxiety, why doesn't the subconscious tap on the glass and say, hey, Captain, that's a really bad idea. I can see the rocks. Let's not do that.
It's a fair point.
It's like having a GPS system that just blindly drives you off a cliff into a lake just because you made a typo entering the address.
This raises an important question, and honestly, it's the hurdle most people stumble over when they first encounter this entire philosophy. Why doesn't the subconscious protect us from our own bad thoughts?
Yeah, why doesn't it have our back?
The answer is that the subconscious operates on absolute, unchangeable principles, much like the physical laws of chemistry or physics.
So it's not a person in there, it's a mechanism.
Exactly. Think about the physical principle that water seeks its own level. That is a universal truth.
Right.
The ancient Egyptians relied on it to build the pyramids perfectly flat. Modern engineers rely on it to build massive hydroelectric dams.
It's totally reliable.
But water doesn't wake up one day and decide to seek its own level only when it's helping build a hospital, but then refuse to seek its level when it's flooding a family's basement and ruining their home.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It just follows its nature. Or take the principle that matter expands when heated. Steel expands when heated in a highly controlled laboratory in London, and it expands when heated in a structurally compromised bridge. It is an impartial law.
It has no morality, no empathy.
Yeah.
It just is.
The subconscious mind is principle. Its foundational principle is that whatever you impress upon it, it must express on the screen of space. It cannot argue or reason controversially.
It just builds whatever you draw.
Right. It simply does not have the capacity to say, I shouldn't manifest this fear because it will bankrupt you. It takes the blueprint, you hand it, and it builds it.
So if you hand a master builder a blueprint for a house with no doors and a collapsing roof, he might question you. But the subconscious is a builder that never, ever questions.
Never. It assumes the conscious mind, the captain, knows exactly what it is doing.
Man, so what does this all mean for you listening right now? It means we have to be incredibly, almost ruthlessly careful about what we are sending down to the engine room.
Absolute ruthless.
Because if the engine room is completely blind to the outside world, what happens when we feed it absolute terror? This brings us to the double-edged sword of suggestion and belief.
That's a dangerous game.
If the subconscious blindly accepts any order, what happens when we accidentally feed it the wrong orders? through our own anxiety or just like offhand cynical comments.
The results can be utterly devastating, and to truly grasp how dangerous a misplaced suggestion can be, you really have to understand how the mind reasons.
Okay.
The subconscious reasons in what logicians call syllogism.
A syllogism. Wow, take me back to college philosophy class. How does that work in practice?
So a syllogism is a form of logical reasoning where a conclusion is drawn inescapably from two assumed propositions.
Right.
The classic textbook example is major premise, all humans are mortal. Minor premise, Socrates is a human. Conclusion, therefore, Socrates is mortal.
The math just flows inevitably from the starting point.
Now here is where it gets fascinating and slightly terrifying regarding your mind. Whatever major premise your conscious mind assumes to be true, your subconscious mind will accept it and immediately begin working to bring about the logical conclusion of that premise in your physical reality.
So it's always working to prove you right.
Yes. If your major premise is objectively true, the conclusion will be sound. But, and this is the absolute danger, if your conscious mind assumes a false or negative major premise to be true, your subconscious will still execute the logical conclusion with that exact same precision.
Because it doesn't fact-check the major premise. It just does the math and builds the house.
And the source material has some really chilling anecdotes about the tragic power of negative suggestion.
Yeah, let's talk about those.
There is a story documented by Dr. Evelyn Fleet, who directed a truth forum in London. She knew a man whose young daughter was suffering terribly.
Oh, this story is rough.
It is. She had crippling rheumatoid arthritis, which meant her joints were constantly inflamed and agonizing to move. And on top of that, she had a highly disfiguring, painful skin condition called psoriasis.
Which is heartbreaking. I mean, if you are a parent listening to this, watching your child suffer like that, you would do literally anything. You were in a state of constant emotional agony yourself.
And this father was at his absolute breaking point. He was near total despair. They had tried all the medical treatments available at the time, and absolutely nothing was working.
Just feeling totally helpless.
Exactly. His daughter was just deteriorating. In his grief, his frustration, and his profound feeling of helplessness, he began repeating a specific phrase.
Oh, boy.
He would say it to himself, he would say it to his friends, he would say it to the doctors, he would say over and over with deep, agonizing emotional intensity, I would give my right arm to see my daughter cured.
Oh, no. Because we know how the engine room takes things. It does not understand hyperbole.
He was emotionally charging a very specific anatomical command. His conscious mind meant it metaphorically. It was a figure of speech meant to convey the depth of his love.
Obviously.
But the subconscious does not understand metaphors. It does not have a sense of humor. It takes you literally. The man's subconscious accepted this repeated, highly emotionalized statement as a literal request.
It became his major premise.
Yes, the captain was shouting it down the telegraph tube every single day.
And what was the conclusion the subconscious manifested?
The family was out for a drive one afternoon. Their car was involved in a horrific, violent, head-on collision.
Oh, my God.
The father's right arm was severed. It was torn off at the shoulder.
That is just horrifying, the sheer trauma of
it. It is a profound tragedy. But here's the part that truly demonstrates the staggering, unyielding power of the subconscious law.
Yeah.
When the father returned home from the hospital, having lost his arm, he discovered that his daughter's arthritis and her severe psoriasis had completely vanished.
Unbelievable.
Her skin was clear, her joints were fine, she was permanently healed.
Wow. That is incredibly heavy. It's a miracle, but a deeply, deeply tragic one. It proves the point so starkly.
It really does.
The subconscious took the deal. It heard the command. You said you'd give the arm for the cure? Done.
Yeah.
It orchestrated the exact, literal manifestation of his spoken, emotionalized word.
We can look at another example of how destructive an accepted suggestion can be, this time involving outside influence.
Okay.
The author recounts a story of a distant relative of his who went to see a crystal gazer, like a fortune teller, while traveling in India.
Right.
He paid this woman to read his future. She looked at him, looked at her crystal, and told him that he had a bad heart. She predicted with absolute chilling certainty that he would die at the next new moon.
Okay, let's unpack this, because people go to psychics and fortune tellers all the time. Usually it's a parlor trick, a bit of fun.
Right.
But this guy took it seriously.
He took it as absolute gospel. He was utterly aghast. He left the crystal gazer's tent in a state of pure panic.
He let the suggestion right past the guard.
Completely. He immediately called all his family members to tell them about the prediction. He went to his lawyer to hurriedly update his will.
Wow.
The author of our text actually tried to talk him out of it, tried to explain that it was pure nonsense, a parlor trick to scare tourists, but the relative refused to listen.
He was locked in.
He told the author that this crystal gazer was renowned in the region for her amazing occult powers and that her prophecies never failed.
He locked in the major premise. She has magical powers. She is always right. She said, my heart will stop at the new moon, therefore.
Therefore, I will die at the new moon. And as the date approached, this man, who a month prior had been vigorous, robust, and completely healthy, began to physically wither away.
The engine room going to work.
He became withdrawn, anxious, essentially an invalid waiting for the Grim Reaper. He couldn't eat, he couldn't sleep, he was obsessed with the calendar.
Just counting down the days.
And on the exact date of the new moon, this previously healthy man suffered a massive, fatal heart attack. He died on schedule.
So what does this all mean? Like, did the crystal gazer murder him? Did she have actual psychic powers that let her see his inevitable doom?
Not at all. The crystal gazer had no more power over his life or his cardiovascular system than a random rock in the street.
Here's where it gets really interesting for you listening to this. The power wasn't in the crystal ball. It wasn't in the woman's mystical abilities. The power that stopped that man's heart was 100% located inside his own subconscious mind.
Exactly.
It was his acceptance of the suggestion that killed him.
We call this heterosuggestion, which is a suggestion coming from an outside source. A suggestion has zero intrinsic power in and of itself.
It's just words.
Right. Its power arises entirely from the fact that you accept it mentally. The moment you give mental consent to a fear or a doubt or a curse, it ceases to be an outside suggestion and becomes your own thought.
You adopt it.
Your subconscious engine room takes it and says, all right, the captain believes we are going to have a heart attack on Tuesday the 14th. Let's adjust the blood pressure, spike the cortisol, restrict the arteries, and make it happen.
If that man had known the laws of his own mind, he could have laughed in the crystal gazer's face.
He could have.
He could have mentally rejected the suggestion, and it would have bounced off him like a rubber ball hitting the side of an armored tank.
Which means we are all being bombarded by heterosuggestions every single day of our lives.
Constantly. I mean, from the moment you wake up, you turn on the news, and it's a barrage of fear.
Oh, absolutely.
You talk to coworkers, and they say, you're going to fail at that project. Family members tell you, the economy is collapsing, you'll definitely lose your job.
A doctor might say, there's a terrible flu going around, you're bound to catch it. Or society tells you, you're too old to start a new career.
And if we don't actively reject those, if we just passively absorb them, read the headlines, ruminate on the worst-case scenarios, we are essentially signing the work order for the engine room to build those exact disasters into our lives.
That is the profound danger. But the beautiful counterpart to this is that we can actively counteract negative suggestions with positive autosuggestion.
Tell us about that.
Autosuggestion is when you deliberately suggest something definite, specific, and empowering to yourself.
I love the story in the source material about Enrico Caruso.
Oh, yeah.
For those who don't know, Caruso was one of the greatest operatic tenors in history, a legendary performer with a voice that could just shake a theater. But even legends have moments of sheer paralyzing panic.
He suffered from terrible stage fright early in his career.
Picture this scene. He is backstage in full elaborate costume. The heat of the theater is oppressive. Sweat is just pouring down his face.
You can just feel the tension.
Outside the heavy velvet curtain, there is an audience of thousands of people, murmuring, holding their breath, waiting for the great Caruso, and suddenly his throat just seizes up completely.
A total physical block.
The muscles constrict. He is experiencing the physical manifestation of intense, overwhelming fear. He literally feels paralyzed. He turns around, his hands trembling, and he says to his handlers, I can't sing. The vocal cords won't move. They will all laugh at me. My career is finished tonight.
Notice the physiological cascade happening there. His conscious mind, which he later called the little me, was flooding with catastrophic fear and anxiety. And it was sending those panic signals straight down to the subconscious, the big me, which was blindly responding by physically shutting down his vocal cords to protect him from the perceived threat of the stage.
But then, in that moment of crisis, Caruso realizes what he is doing to himself.
He snaps out of it.
He stops. He turns his back on his handlers, faces the curtain, stands up completely straight, and he actually shouts out loud. He says, the little me wants to strangle the big me within. And he starts ordering his conscious fear around. He commands it with absolute authority. He yells, "Get out of here. The big me wants to sing through me." He literally yelled at the empty backstage area, "Get out, get out. The big me's going to sing."
It sounds incredibly theatrical, but it is a masterclass in executing positive autosuggestion to counteract fear.
It really is.
He understood that the subconscious mind, the big me, the source of his limitless power, his lung capacity, his talent, was entirely subject to the conscious mind's commands.
He had to retake the bridge of the ship.
By speaking affirmatively, with absolute unwavering authority and conviction, he overrode the negative fear loop. He told the irrational panic, "Be still. I am in control. You must obey me."
And it worked. His throat relaxed. The constriction vanished. The vital forces released. He walked out onto that stage and delivered a majestic, legendary performance that people talked about for decades.
Incredible.
So if you are listening to this right now and you are facing a massive presentation at work, or an intimidating job interview, or a difficult conversation, and you feel that tightness in your chest, that whisper that you aren't good enough, you have to be like Caruso.
You do.
You have to actively evict the little me and give the floor to the big me.
Refuse mental consent to the fear. Do not let it become your major premise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we've just seen the terrifying flip side of this mechanism. A misplaced belief can literally tear a man's arm off or stop a healthy man's heart. But if the subconscious has that sheer physical power to manipulate blood flow, nerves, and flesh to destroy the body, what happens when we intentionally aim that exact same power at a disease? Can humanity reverse engineer this?
This is where we uncover the universal healing principle. When you look throughout human history, in every culture, every religion, and on every continent, there have been documented miraculous healings of quote-unquote incurable diseases.
Ancient shrines, holy relics, shamans, bizarre potions.
Yeah,
the book talks about ancient devotees of the Greek goddess Hecate. They would mix lizards with resin, frankincense, and myrrh, pound it all together in the open air under a crescent moon, pray over it, drink this awful concoction, and go to sleep to be healed. Which, I mean, to our modern ears, sounds completely insane.
It sounds like pure superstition. And objectively, chemically speaking, it is.
Right.
The lizard and the resin pounded under a crescent moon have absolutely zero pharmacological power to cure a disease. But what we have to understand is the common denominator of all these historical miracles.
What's the thread?
Ancient priests and modern faith healers produce real, verifiable results, not because of magic and not because the spirits are intervening. They work because the bizarre rituals, the elaborate ceremonies, the incantations, and the fervent prayers all serve one profound, highly effective psychological purpose.
Okay.
They completely bypass the critical, rational, doubting conscious mind and implant a massive, undeniable suggestion of health directly into the subconscious mind.
They dazzle and distract the captain so thoroughly with the smoke and mirrors that he just waves the order for perfect health right through to the engine room without overthinking it.
That's a perfect way to phrase it. The aroused emotional state of the patient, the desperation combined with the awe of the ritual, suspends their conscious doubt.
It's like a shock to the system.
It forcefully opens the door to the engine room and allows the suggestion of healing to take deep root.
There's a story in the text that illustrates this psychological bypass so perfectly, and it is a wild story.
Oh, the Australian man.
Yes. It's about an Australian man who was dying of tuberculosis. His lungs were severely diseased, he was wasting away, and the doctors had basically sent him home to die because there was nothing more medical science could do.
No hope left.
His son decides he wants to save his father, but he knows his father needs a powerful psychological shock to trigger his faith. So the son creates an incredibly elaborate, bold lie.
A magnificent deception, really, executed purely out of love.
Right. The son goes to his dying father and says, "Dad, I just met a wandering European monk who came back from one of the most famous holy healing shrines in the world. And this monk had a ring that contained a genuine splinter of the true cross. Countless people have been miraculously healed of incurable diseases just by touching it."
He really sold it.
He claims he paid the monk the equivalent of $500, which was a massive sum at the time, just to borrow this holy relic for one single night.
And he presents the ring to his skeptical, dying father.
Right. And the father, who is staring death in the face and is desperate for any sliver of hope, he practically snatches the ring out of his son's hand. He grips it to his chest, he prays with intense, overwhelming, tearful fervor, and he eventually falls into a deep sleep.
Then the next morning.
He wakes up feeling revitalized. He goes to the clinic, they do tests, and the tuberculosis is completely gone. The lesions on his lungs have literally vanished. She lives for another 15 years and eventually dies of old age at 89.
And the reality of the ring.
This is the best part. The son had literally picked up a random piece of rotting wood off the sidewalk, taken it to a local jeweler, and had it set in a fake antique gold ring.
Unbelievable.
There was no European monk. There was no true cross. It was a piece of street garbage.
This proves definitively what the brilliant 16th century physician Paracelsus noted.
What did he say?
Paracelsus stated that whether the object of your faith is real or false, you will obtain the exact same effects. If you believe in a saint's bones, or if you believe in a piece of sidewalk wood, the physiological healing is identical because the healing power is not in the object.
It's in the mind.
The healing power is a subconscious mind responding to absolute faith.
The object just acts as a psychological permission slip for your own mind to do the work.
Another deeply documented, almost unbelievable case is that of Madame Barrère at Lourdes, the famous Catholic healing shrine in France.
Oh, this one is fascinating.
She was completely blind. Her optic nerves were entirely atrophied and useless. They were essentially dead tissue. She goes to the shrine with massive expectancy and profound religious faith.
Right, she expects a miracle.
She bathes in the waters, she prays, and suddenly she regains her sight. Several skeptical doctors examine her immediately after this event, and they testify to something medically impossible.
What was it?
She could see perfectly, she could read eye charts, yet her optic nerves were still physically, visibly atrophied. It wasn't until a month later that further rigorous examination showed her visual mechanism had actually physically regenerated to match her sight.
That breaks my brain a little bit.
Yeah.
She was seeing with dead nerves because her subconscious was overriding the physical limitation while it worked in the background on repairing the hardware.
Because the subconscious created the eye in the first place from a single fertilized cell, what the creative principle created, it can certainly recreate. The waters of Lourdes didn't heal her optic nerves. Her own blind, absolute faith released the healing kinetic energy of her subconscious.
And scientists have proven this exact physiological response to suggestion in highly controlled laboratories.
Oh, Dr. Bernheim.
Yes, Dr. Hippolyte Bernheim, a renowned professor of medicine in France, did extensive experiments with hypnotized patients. In one famous instance, he told a hypnotized patient he was applying a hot fly plaster, which is a medical poultice that severely burns and blisters the skin to the back of the patient's neck.
A very specific, painful suggestion.
But all he actually applied was a regular, harmless postage stamp. The patient's body immediately, within minutes, produced a massive, fluid-filled, physical blister in the exact rectangular shape of the stamp.
He even went further and induced bloody stigmata.
Wait, really?
He traced a patient's name on his arm with a dull, blunt instrument that did not break the skin or cause any damage. He then told the hypnotized patient that at exactly 4:00 p.m. that afternoon, the lines would bleed. And at exactly 4:00 p.m., while the patient was awake and being observed, the letters stood out in bright red relief and actual drops of blood seeped from the completely unbroken skin.
Okay, that is almost terrifying. It's like the body is just clay waiting for instructions.
It demonstrates the absolute perfect control the subconscious has over the functions, sensations, and structural conditions of the human body.
So bringing it back to you, the listener, you don't need to travel halfway across the world to a shrine in France. You don't need to find a fake piece of the true cross. And you don't need to be hypnotized by a 19th century French doctor.
No, you do not need external props.
What you need is what the book calls prayer therapy, or scientific prayer, which isn't about begging a deity in the sky to change its mind about you or pleading for mercy.
Right, it's not a negotiation.
It's the synchronized, harmonious function of your conscious and subconscious mind directing that kinetic healing energy within yourself.
It is the conscious mind holding a clear, undeniable, peaceful image of perfect health and passing that architectural image down to the engine room without interference. Take the example of the Methodist minister mentioned in the text, who was diagnosed with a highly aggressive lung cancer.
Yes. His technique was so incredibly specific, rather than just a vague hope.
He didn't just wish to get better. He didn't focus on the cancer or read statistics about mortality rates. He developed a routine.
What do you do?
He systematically relaxed his entire body. He would sit in a chair and mentally speak to his feet, his ankles, his legs, his chest, telling each part to relax until he was in a deeply drowsy, sleepy, receptive state.
Calming the captain down.
And then, once the critical mind was quiet, he affirmed with absolute conviction that the perfect, flawless image of God was filling his subconscious, and that his physical body was actively being recreated in accordance with that perfect blueprint.
Wow.
He visualized the perfect blueprint, and the subconscious builder executed it. He experienced a complete, medically verified healing of his lungs.
Which brings up a really massive roadblock. I mean, if healing is just about giving our subconscious a command, if it's just about visualization and belief, why do so many people pray for health or pray for success or visualize their goals and get the exact opposite?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. Why do we fail when we are trying so incredibly hard to make it work? We put all our energy into it and we still fail.
This brings us to a concept that is perhaps the most counterintuitive part of this entire philosophy. It goes against everything we are taught. We fail precisely because we are trying so hard.
Say more about that.
We fail because we rely on willpower.
Wait, willpower is the enemy. Society tells us willpower is the only way to succeed, like grind it out, push through the pain, force it to happen, never give up.
In the physical world of moving heavy objects, perhaps. But in the realm of the subconscious mind, willpower is fatal.
Really?
Émile Coué, a celebrated French psychologist, formulated what he called the law of reverse effort. The law states quite simply, whenever your desires and your imagination are in conflict, your imagination invariably gains the day.
Okay, let's unpack this. I'm going to use the plank analogy because I think it hits so viscerally close to home.
Go for it.
Imagine I take a wooden plank, say 12 inches wide and 20 feet long, and I lay it completely flat on the floor of your living room. I tell you, walk across this plank. You do it without a second thought. You might even do it balancing a cup of coffee. It's easy. Your desire is to walk across, and your imagination says it's just a piece of wood on the solid floor. They're in perfect alignment.
Yes, the action is effortless because there is no internal conflict.
Now take that exact same plank, same width, same length, and suspend it between two skyscrapers, 20 stories up in the air.
Oh, terrifying.
The wind is howling.
Oh, tell
Right?
me.
You'll walk across. Suddenly your knees lock up. You are trembling. You can't do it. Your desire, your willpower is screaming, I want to walk across this. I have to walk across to survive. But your imagination is picturing you losing your balance, your foot slipping on the wood, and you falling hundreds of feet to your death. Your willpower is fighting a brutal war against your imagination.
And according to the law of reversed effort, your imagination will win every single time. The more effort you put into conquering your imagination, the more strength you actually give to the dominant, terrifying idea of falling.
It backfires.
The thought, I will use my willpower to not fall, reinforces the mental picture of falling.
It's the classic don't think of a pink elephant problem, but with life or death stakes.
Exactly. When you use mental force or willpower, you are implicitly presupposing that there is massive opposition. You are acknowledging that there is a terrifying block in your way, but the very act of imagining opposition creates that exact opposition in the subconscious.
So when I'm sick, and I'm laying in bed clenching my fists and gritting my teeth and saying, I am going to beat this virus. I am going to force myself to get better. I am trying so hard to be healthy. My subconscious just hears, wow, the captain is really terrified of this sickness. This sickness must be incredibly powerful if he's fighting this hard. We better manifest more sickness to match his blueprint.
That is precisely what it hears. It creates a state of mental coercion. Think about the universal experience of taking a high-stakes exam.
Oh, the worst.
You've studied for weeks, you know the material backwards and forwards, you sit down in the silent room, flip the paper over, read the first question, and your mind goes entirely blank.
Yes.
Panic sets in. You grit your teeth, you summon all your willpower, you grip the pencil until your knuckles turn white, and you try to force the memory to surface.
And the harder you push, the further away the answer gets. It's infuriating. It feels like the memory is locked behind a steel door.
But what happens when the time is up?
You give up.
You finally give up, you hand in the blank test, you walk out of the room, and the mental pressure releases. And suddenly, halfway to your car, the answer floods back into your mind flawlessly. You could recite the entire textbook page.
Because you stopped trying.
The mistake was trying to force the subconscious. The harder you knocked, the tighter it locked the door.
So what's the solution? We connect this to the bigger picture of your life. Listening to this, you have to stop saying, I try so hard. You have to drop the struggle. The expert advice here is profound relaxation.
Easy does it.
The effortless way is always the best way. You have to enlist the powers of the subconscious not by pushing against a heavy obstacle, but by visualizing the end result and dwelling in the emotional state of freedom it produces.
It reminds me of the story of the furnace repairman.
Oh, I like that one.
A homeowner's furnace breaks in the absolute dead of winter. It's freezing in the house. The repairman comes out, looks at the massive, complicated machine for 10 minutes, replaces one tiny little valve, and hands the homeowner a bill for $200.
Naturally.
The homeowner is furious. He says, "You were here for 10 minutes. That little plastic part cost $2. How can you charge me $200? And the repairman says, "I charged you $2 for the broken part. The other $198 is for knowing exactly what was wrong and exactly how to fix it without breaking a sweat." A perfect analogy. Your subconscious mind is that master mechanic. It knows exactly how to fix the complex biological furnace of your body or the intricate machinery of your career.
You just have to let it.
You don't need to stand over its shoulder and tell it how to do its job. You don't need to understand the complex wiring. You just need to hand over the work order with a relaxed, confident belief that the job is already done.
Which is a huge relief, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't need to figure out the molecular structure of my immune system to heal a cut on my hand. I just need to get out of the way.
Exactly.
But that raises a very practical question. Since willpower is out, and we can't force the conscious and subconscious to agree through sheer effort, how do we actually program this supercomputer? What are the practical daily mechanics we can use?
The primary mechanism is finding a specific time when the conscious mind, that critical, arguing little me that always wants to doubt, is out of the way. And the best time for that is what the text calls the drowsy state.
We are talking about the moments right before you fall asleep at night and right after you wake up in the morning when you are still half in dreamland.
Yes. The passing over technique. In this twilight, sleepy state, conscious effort is reduced to an absolute minimum.
The guard is down.
The negative thoughts that usually pop up during the day to neutralize your desires, the skeptical voice that says, "That will never work, you can't afford that, you're not smart enough, you don't have the connections," that voice is asleep. The heady steel gateway to the engine room is wide open, and ideas can sink in by pure osmosis.
So as you're laying in bed tonight, instead of scrolling on your phone and reading doom and gloom news articles about the economy,
Right.
which is basically handing the engine room a literal blueprint for anxiety and poverty, you should use one of these specific methods.
Yes, let's go through them.
Let's talk about the mental movie method.
The subconscious mind will inevitably bring to pass any picture held firmly in the mind and backed by faith. The mental movie method is acting in your imagination as though you already are what you want to be.
Dr. Murphy tells a great personal story about this. He was traveling in the Midwest and decided he wanted a permanent base there, a place to teach and live. He didn't stress about the real estate market.
Your willpower.
He didn't forcefully network or panic about logistics. He just laid on a couch in his hotel room in Spokane, Washington, got completely relaxed into that drowsy state, and just played a movie in his mind.
Setting the scene.
He visualized himself standing on a stage in front of a large, enthusiastic audience, and he could literally feel the reality of saying to them, "I am glad to be here. I have prayed for the ideal opportunity." He felt the satisfaction, the warmth of the lights, the acoustics of the room. A few days later, he got an unexpected call from an organization in the Midwest offering him exactly that director position.
He projected the finished state, completely bypassing the how. There is another wonderful example in the book of a young woman named Margaret who used this for something very material, a car.
Oh, the Cadillac story.
Yes. She desperately needed a car to get to her lectures, but she was broke. Instead of focusing on her lack of money, which would just manifest more lack, she used her imagination. She mentally went into a high-end car showroom.
In her mind.
She visualized sitting in a brand new Cadillac. She felt the smooth leather upholstery beneath her hands. She put her hands on the steering wheel and felt the grip. She vividly imagined driving it down the street, feeling the suspension. She lived the role of the owner in her mind for 2 solid weeks every night before sleep.
And the result? Her uncle suddenly passed away and left her his estate, which incredibly included his Cadillac. She quite literally drove a Cadillac to her next lecture.
Now, a cynic might call that a mere coincidence. But when you understand the absolute mechanics of the mind, you see that she magnetized herself to that reality.
Right.
Her inner movie compelled the outer world to conform, utilizing channels she couldn't have possibly orchestrated with her conscious mind.
Another technique for those who maybe struggle with visualizing vivid, detailed movies is the Baudouin technique.
Oh, this is a powerful one.
Charles Baudouin was a brilliant psychotherapist who found that the best way to bypass conscious resistance is to condense your desire into a very short, easily repeatable phrase like a lullaby, and just repeat it over and over as you drift off to sleep.
It's brilliant in its simplicity because it prevents the mind from wandering or getting bogged down in specifics.
There was a young woman in Los Angeles
Yeah.
caught in an incredibly bitter, prolonged family lawsuit over an inheritance. Her husband had passed away, and his kids from a previous marriage were ruthlessly trying to break the will.
So stressful.
It was toxic, it was draining her finances, and it was destroying her mental health, the sheer exhaustion of litigation. She asked Dr. Murphy for help, and he told her to use the Baudouin technique. She condensed her desire for peace into a simple, beautiful phrase. It is finished in divine order.
It is finished in divine order. Notice there is absolutely no conflict in that statement.
None.
It doesn't name the opponents. It doesn't wish them ill. It doesn't specify a dollar amount she wants to win. It just claims ultimate, overarching harmony.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Every single night for 10 nights, she sat in her armchair, relaxed into a sleepy state, and repeated that phrase softly, like a lullaby, until she fell asleep. It is finished in divine order.
And what happened?
On the 11th morning, she woke up feeling a profound, unexplainable sense of peace. That exact day, her attorney called. Out of nowhere, the opposing side decided to drop the lawsuit, and they reached a totally harmonious, agreeable settlement out of court.
Amazing.
The blueprint of peace was accepted by the engine room, and it rearranged the external world to match.
And closely related to that is the thank you technique. This relies on the cosmic law of action and reaction. A truly thankful heart is always incredibly close to the creative forces of the universe.
I love this one because it requires such a massive leap of faith. There was a young mother of 3, completely broke, out of work, and terrified because she didn't know how she was going to feed her kids the next week.
That kind of fear is paralyzing.
The overwhelming fear of poverty was consuming her. But she started using this technique every night and morning. She would relax, close her eyes, and just say, "Thank you, Father, for my wealth."
She was giving thanks before the outer evidence appeared. She was acknowledging the invisible reality of abundance rather than the visible reality of her empty bank account.
She repeated it until the actual mood of thankfulness dominated her mind. She replaced the dread with gratitude. When fear tried to creep in during the day, she didn't fight it. She just gently said, "Thank you, Father."
Maintaining the state.
Within 3 weeks, she was walking down the street and literally bumped into a former employer, someone she hadn't seen in 5 years. They got to talking. He offered her a high-paying management job on the spot and even gave her a substantial cash advance to tide her over until her first paycheck.
What's fascinating here is that the feeling is the secret. You have to feel the reality of the desire as a finished state right now, not as something that will happen in the distant future.
That distinction is so important.
If you say, "I will be wealthy someday," your subconscious hears, "I am currently not wealthy, and the wealth is always in the future." You have to claim it in the present tense.
Which perfectly transitions us into applying this to the external world. Let's take all these internal healing and manifestation techniques and focus them squarely on money, career, and tangible success. Because I know a lot of people listening right now are stressed about inflation, the economy, and their jobs.
The first and most vital shift in perspective required for financial success is this: wealth is a subconscious conviction. And conversely, poverty is a mental disease.
Whoa, poverty is a mental disease. That is a bold, almost offensive statement to some people.
It sounds harsh, but it means that there is absolutely no inherent virtue in poverty. The universe, nature, life itself intends for humans to live abundantly.
Right.
Look at a virgin forest. There's no lack. It is bursting with growth. Look at the ocean. It is teeming with life. Lack and limitation are human constructs based entirely on fear and ignorance of how the mind works.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because we have so much cultural baggage around money, we hear people say, money is the root of all evil, or they call it filthy lucre. I hear people constantly resenting the rich. They see a billionaire on TV or a neighbor with a new luxury car, and they just spew venom. They assume the person must be corrupt.
And that resentment is the absolute fastest way to guarantee you will remain broke for the rest of your life. You cannot attract what you criticize.
That is such a powerful rule.
It is fundamental physics of the mind. If you see a competitor at your business depositing a massive check at the bank and you feel a pang of intense envy or resentment, what are you effectively telling your subconscious mind?
That money is bad.
You are declaring that wealth is bad. You are saying, I hate that money, I resent that prosperity. Your subconscious takes you at your literal word and ensures that wealth stays far away from you. Why would it bring you something you actively, emotionally despise?
It's like telling the engine room, steer clear of the treasure island. Captain hates treasure.
Exactly. The scientific thinker looks at money the exact same way a physicist looks at metal. Money is just a symbol of exchange. Once it was sheep, then it was salt, then gold, now it's just digital ones and zeros on a screen.
Right.
Is gold inherently more evil than lead? No, they are just different arrangements of atoms. It's the human mind that attaches the moral label of evil to the neutral symbol of money. You must never criticize money. You must actively rejoice in the wealth of others.
But what about affirmations that backfire? People say, okay, I won't criticize money. I'll just look in the mirror every morning and shout, I am a millionaire. I am a millionaire. But then their bank account actually shrinks and they get hit with a surprise tax bill. Why does saying I am a millionaire make some people poorer?
Because of the law of reversed effort we discussed earlier. When someone who is deeply in debt and terrified of eviction shouts, I am a millionaire, their conscious mind immediately rebels.
It calls them out.
A little me says, you liar. Look at your bills. Look at your empty fridge. You're broke. The affirmation creates a massive, stressful mental conflict. And in a conflict, the dominant feeling always wins. The dominant feeling here is panic and lack, so the subconscious manifests more lack.
So how do you fix a broken affirmation?
You use a non-argumentative phrase, a phrase that the conscious mind cannot logically dispute. Instead of shouting, I am a millionaire, you softly say, by day and by night, I am being prospered in all of my interests.
I like that.
Or, my sales are improving every single day. The conscious mind easily accepts the process of improvement without triggering the alarm bells of a perceived lie.
That is so practical. I am being prospered. It's smooth. It slips right past the guards on the bridge. Now, the book also outlines 3 very specific steps to true success, and they are surprisingly grounded. Step 1, find what you love to do and do it. Step 2, specialize in a particular branch of that field and strive to excel in it above all others. Step 3, and this is the most important one, your desire cannot be purely selfish. You must serve humanity.
The circuit must be completed. If you only want wealth to hoard it like a dragon in a cave, you short-circuit the flow of abundance. The energy has to move through you to bless others.
There's a great story about a young pharmacist, Mary S. She was working the counter at a massive, impersonal chain drugstore, totally miserable. She felt like a replaceable cog in a machine.
Soul-crushing work.
But she had a beautiful dream. She wanted her own friendly neighborhood pharmacy where she knew everyone's name, where parents could call her in the middle of the night for medicine for their sick kids, where she could truly care for her community.
A beautiful desire to serve humanity, completing the circuit.
But she was broke. So she started using the mental movie method. While she was physically filling prescriptions at the big corporate store, she mentally visualized that she was standing in her own store. She mentally arranged the bottles on her own shelves. She greeted imaginary customers by name. She lived the feeling of ownership every single day.
She assumed the state of the wish fulfilled, regardless of her current physical reality.
Eventually, the chain store went bankrupt because a mega mall opened nearby. She was out of a job. She had to get work as a traveling sales rep for a large drug company. One day, her territory takes her to a small town she's never been to before. She walks into the only pharmacy in town to make a sales call, and her jaw drops. It is the exact store she'd been visualizing for years. The layout, the feel, the old wood counters, everything.
The subconscious mind orchestrating the perfect serendipitous events.
The elderly owner was looking to retire, but didn't want to sell his beloved store to a faceless corporation. He wanted someone who cared about the town. They struck up a conversation. He saw her passion. He offered to loan her the money himself to buy it, and she paid him back out of the profits. She manifested her exact dream by holding the blueprint steady in the engine room.
We see this with academic success, too. There was a 16-year-old boy, Todd, who was failing all his classes. He was miserable. He thought he was just inherently stupid. But his attitude was the actual block. He was resentful and convinced of his own failure.
So what did he do?
By changing his blueprint, by affirming right before sleep that his subconscious memory was perfect, and actively radiating goodwill to his teachers instead of resenting them, he went from failing everything to getting straight A's. He unblocked the flow of intelligence.
Wait, I have to play devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
Step 3 was serve humanity. What about scammers? What about these ruthless corporate raiders or billionaires who clearly do not give a single care about serving humanity, who defraud people, yet they are sitting on super yachts with hundreds of millions of dollars?
This raises an important question about the definition of true success. True success requires peace of mind. Without it, wealth is nothing but a gilded prison.
Okay.
The author tells a fascinating story of a professional criminal he met in London. This man had amassed a massive fortune through elaborate fraud and exploitation. He had a luxury home in London, a sprawling summer estate in France. He had everything money could buy, but he lived in constant, paralyzing terror of Scotland Yard. He couldn't sleep. He jumped at every shadow. He suffered from severe, agonizing physical ailments brought on by a deep-seated, undeniable guilt complex. He knew he had done wrong. He knew he had hurt people, and his subconscious punished him for it physically and mentally. He was a prisoner of his own mind.
Wow.
He eventually turned himself in, served his time, and transformed his life to find peace. You cannot short-circuit the law of harmony without suffering the consequences.
So ill-gotten gains bring their own invisible torment. That makes sense. The engine room doesn't just build the money, it builds the anxiety, the paranoia, and the guilt that go with the destructive method of acquiring it.
Exactly. You reap exactly what you sow.
We spent all this time talking about how to direct the engine room while we are awake, using visualization, affirmations, and lullabies. But we spend a third of our entire lives unconscious. 8 hours a day, the captain is completely asleep. Does the engine room just shut down? What if the most profound, world-altering work of the subconscious actually happens in the dark?
The true purpose of sleep is vastly misunderstood by modern society. Most people think we sleep simply to rest the physical body, to recharge the batteries, so to speak. But as we noted earlier, the vital organs, the heart, the lungs, the digestive system, they never stop working.
Right. If my heart stopped to rest while I slept, I'd be dead.
Precisely. Early sleep researchers, like Dr. John Bigelow, discovered that sleep is not merely physical rest. It is a necessary withdrawal of the conscious mind from the sensory world so that the deeper self can commune with higher wisdom.
A recharge.
It is a spiritual and mental recharge. The subconscious works infinitely better when the interfering, doubting conscious mind is out of the way.
Which is why sleep deprivation is so dangerous. It literally causes the mind to break down. Hallucinations, psychotic breaks, sheer panic. If you don't let the conscious mind step away from the controls, the system overloads.
You must allow the subconscious the quiet time to process, to organize, and to draw from the universal databanks.
And when you look at history, it is mind-blowing how many giants of science and industry literally pulled their greatest discoveries out of their dreams. They tapped into this sheer computational power in their sleep.
Because the subconscious has access to infinite intelligence and memory.
Take Friedrich von Stradonitz. He was a brilliant chemist, driving himself crazy trying to figure out the chemical structure of benzene. It was a massive scientific puzzle. He couldn't solve it. He worked for months, exhausting himself.
The willpower trap again.
Finally, totally burnt out, he just surrendered the problem to his subconscious and went to sleep. Or actually, he was taking a nap on a London bus. And he dreams of a snake boating its own tail, spinning around like a pinwheel. He wakes up, realizes the subconscious is giving him a brilliant metaphor, and discovers the circular benzene ring.
A foundational discovery in organic chemistry handed to him perfectly packaged in a dream.
Or Louis Agassiz, the legendary Harvard naturalist. He has this incredibly important fossil fish trapped in stone, but it's totally obscured. He can't figure out its biological structure. He struggles for weeks, chipping away, trying to deduce it.
Sounds familiar.
Finally, he gives up. That night, he dreams of the fish, perfectly restored and visible. But he forgets it when he wakes up. This happens again the next night. The third night, he leaves a pencil and paper by his bed. He dreams it again, wakes up half asleep in the pitch dark, sketches what he saw in the dream without even turning on a light, and goes back to sleep.
And the next morning?
The next morning, he looks at the sketch, uses it as a guide to chisel the stone, and finds the fossil matches his dream sketch perfectly.
It's extraordinary. The subconscious reconstructed the missing data from the tiny fragments he had consciously observed, solving the puzzle in the dark.
Dr. Frederick Banting. This one is incredible. He's trying to cure diabetes in the 1920s. Back then, a diabetes diagnosis was an absolute death sentence for a child, hitting dead end after dead end in his research. He goes to sleep exhausted, deeply emotional about the children dying in the wards, and his subconscious instructs him in a vivid dream to extract the residue from the degenerated pancreatic ducts of dogs.
That's so specific.
He wakes up, follows the dream's bizarre specific instructions, and discovers insulin, saving millions of lives.
And it's not just elite scientists. A regular steel mill worker named Ray Hammerstrom was trying to fix a faulty switch on a massive new machine at work. The highly educated engineers couldn't figure it out. The machine was useless. Ray thinks about it, takes a nap, dreams the exact perfect design for the switch, sketches it when he wakes up, presents it to his bosses, and the company gives him a $15,000 bonus.
I need to take more naps. Seriously, the computational power is staggering. But the most incredible story in this entire deep dive, the ultimate survival story that proves everything we've talked about, involves Dr. Lothar von Blankschmidt.
A testament to the sheer preserving power of the human mind under the most horrific conditions imaginable.
He was a brilliant electronic engineer, but during World War II, he was locked up in a brutal Soviet coal mine POW camp. The conditions were horrific. Men were dying daily of starvation, freezing temperatures, and overwork. He was assigned to mine 300 pounds of coal a day, or his meager food rations would be cut, which meant certain agonizing death.
A living nightmare.
His home in Germany was gone, his family wiped out. He had absolutely nothing but his mind.
But he understood the laws of his mind. He knew how to direct the engine room.
He started concentrating on escape. He told his subconscious, I want to go to Los Angeles and you will find the way. Every single day and night, in this freezing, deadly coal mine surrounded by misery and death, he mentally visualized himself walking down Wilshire Boulevard in Los Angeles with an American girl he had met before the war.
He's keeping the vision alive.
He imagined the bright California sun, the specific storefronts, riding the buses, eating warm food in restaurants. He made the mental movie as real and textured as the freezing mud of the camp.
He was building the blueprint in the engine room, completely ignoring the terrifying objective reality of the prison camp.
Here's what the subconscious did with that blueprint. Every morning, the heavily armed guards lined up the prisoners and counted them off. Dr. von Blankschmidt was always number 17. One morning, the guard counts down the line, 15, 16, 17, and von Blankschmidt steps forward as usual. But at that exact microscopic second, the guard is called away by another guard.
Wow.
When the guard turns back a minute later, he forgets he already counted 17, points to the next man in line, and says, 17.
A momentary, perfectly timed lapse in human attention.
The camp records now show everyone is accounted for. Von Blankschmidt literally just turns around and walks out of the camp undetected. Because the paperwork says everyone is there, they don't even look for him for a long time. He survives in the freezing wilderness, sneaks onto coal trains across Poland, navigates war-torn borders, and miraculously makes his way to Switzerland.
And the conclusion of the story is the perfect manifestation of his exact blueprint.
He's sitting in a hotel lobby in Lucerne, Switzerland, a free man. He strikes up a conversation with an American couple. They like him, and they invite him to come stay at their home as a guest to recover. Where do they live? Santa Monica, California.
Yeah, it gives you chills.
He accepts. And when he arrives in America, their chauffeur drives him right down Wilshire Boulevard, past the exact buildings and storefronts he had visualized while starving in a Russian coal mine. He eventually found and married that American girl.
It is breathtaking. He bypassed all the logical impossibilities. He didn't try to use his conscious mind to figure out how to escape the armed guards or how to forge travel documents or how to cross war-torn Europe. He simply commanded the end result, Wilshire Boulevard, and the subconscious orchestrated the impossibly complex sequence of events, starting with a guard's tiny mathematical error to bring it to pass.
So the takeaway for you, listening right now, you can literally ask your subconscious for answers before you go to bed. There's a brief story of a young man named Hugo whose father died. The family couldn't find the will, and if they didn't find it, the state would take a huge chunk of the estate.
A stressful situation.
Hugo didn't tear the house apart in a panic. He just said to his subconscious, you know where the will is. And he went to sleep repeating the word answer over and over like a lullaby.
And what was the result?
He woke up the next morning with an overwhelming, undeniable hunch to go to a specific bank in Los Angeles. He went there, talked to an officer, and found out his dad had a secret safe deposit box no one knew about. They opened it, and the will was inside. Just from chanting answer before falling asleep.
What's fascinating here is that the guidance comes as an overpowering hunch, an inner knowing. When you turn a complex problem over to the subconscious before sleep, you must trust the feeling you wake up with. You don't force it. The subconscious speaks in intuition.
Wow, okay. We have covered an incredible amount of ground today.
If we synthesize this entire journey, You are the captain of your ship. Your conscious mind holds the wheel and gives the orders. But the true power, the kinetic energy that drives the massive vessel, is the crew down in the engine room, your subconscious mind.
That's all down there.
It has the proven power to heal your body from impossible diseases. It can attract avalanches of wealth and orchestrate incredibly serendipitous encounters. It can pull genius-level insights out of the ether, giving you the answers to your most complex problems while you sleep. But to harness this supercomputer, you have to stop fighting it. You must drop the willpower, silence the fear, reject negative heterosuggestions, and communicate in the language it understands, the language of deep feeling, vivid imagination, and absolute unwavering faith.
That is the instruction manual. And I want to leave you, the listener, with one final thing to mull over today as we wrap up this deep dive. Think about the thoughts you've had just today since you woke up this morning. Think about the casual complaints about the traffic, the fleeting anxious worries about your bank account, the angry daydreams about an argument you might have with a coworker tomorrow.
We all have them.
Your subconscious has been listening to every single one of those thoughts, and it is treating them as literal, non-negotiable commands. It doesn't know you're joking. It doesn't know you're just venting. It is currently, right this second, adjusting the dials in the engine room to build those exact stressful experiences into your reality. So as you take your headphones off today, walk back into your living room, past that coffee table, what blueprint are you going to hand to your supercomputer right now?